Welcome back to Ken vs. the Stove. Today we're doing lasagna or lasagna or however you want to pronounce it. I don't speak Italian. Yeah, this is by request. I got a request from Chad, you know who you are, to make something Italian. Okay, well, this is as close as I get. And I got a request from someone else, Grayson, to actually specifically make lasagna. Because I think he thinks it's complicated enough that I'm going to screw it up, and he likes to laugh at me. I don't blame him for that. So let's go. Here's what we got. Okay. First of all, pound of ground beef, pound of Italian sausage. Now the recipe actually calls for a 3/4 pound of ground beef and a 1.25 pounds of ground sausage. Yeah, they don't package them that way, so this is what you got, folks. Sorry. Beyond that, we're going to use, let's see, 9 lasagna noodles. So I'm going to have to cook those up first, but, you know, they're there. And then we're going to use 1 medium onion. I don't know, it may be a little bit larger than medium, but it's there. And we're going to use 2 cans of crushed tomatoes, a big can and a little can, which would be 15 and 30 ounces. We're going to use 2/3 cup of water. Okay, well, I'll get that when I get it, right? 3 tablespoons of fresh minced parsley. I actually bought parsley for this. There it is. If anybody needs extra parsley, apparently I got doubled up on that order, so I've got another whole one. You're welcome to it. I got doubled up on a lot of stuff I ordered for this. I'm not sure whether that was my mistake or their mistake. 2 tablespoons of dried basil. There's your basil. Salt, 3/4 of a teaspoon. 1/4 teaspoon of ground pepper. Yeah, they say coarsely ground pepper. They're going to get white pepper, you know, well, ground here. 1 large egg. 1 carton of ricotta cheese. There we go. Again, somehow I ended up ordering 2 or getting at least 2 delivered to me. If anybody needs ricotta cheese, let me know. 4 cups shredded part skim mozzarella. Yeah, okay, well, that's what I actually got. I'm sure I didn't intend to order that, but those 2 packages are the equivalent of 4 cups. And then we're supposed to get 3/4 of a cup, I think, of, what is it? 3/4 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Well, there's that. Although this says it's 2 cups. 2 cups at 8 ounces, huh? Okay. So, let's see what we can start with. Well, I'm going to have to start with the doggone noodles. Because you got to have noodles before I can do anything else. The recipe calls for 9 of these things. For those of you who have never seen a lasagna pasta, that's what it looks like. And you'd be just like me. I've never seen one before this now either. The recipe told me to use a Dutch oven for this. This is the nearest thing I think I've got, except maybe my chili pot, but the chili pot has chili in it, so that ain't happening. Okay. Now that has got to come to a boil, and after it comes to a boil, it then goes for 12 minutes or so. Okay, so the next thing I'm supposed to do is I am now supposed to cook the sausage, beef, and onion over a medium heat, 8 to 10 minutes, until the meat is no longer pink. Well, that means I got to grind up the doggone mushrooms first. Aha! I get to use the food processor again. I guess I'm supposed to chop off the top and the bottom. Let's do that first. Hoo-ah. Okay, let's put the top back on that sucker. And that onion's about as chopped as that onion's gonna get. There we go. Yeah. Well, I now have onion mush. See that? Onion mush. I suspect they wanted it cut up more in chunks. That's not as fun as using this thing. Ah. Well, here's Bertha. She is my cast iron pot, because apparently if you're going to be cooking anywhere south of, say, like Maryland, or baking or doing it on top of the oven or whatever you call it, it's got to be a cast iron pot.
Thing I'm supposed to do is in a small bowl mix egg, ricotta cheese, and remaining parsley and salt.
Small bowl, put in the egg. Ricotta cheese. Ugh.
Three-quarters a cup of parsley. Am that right? No, quarter cup parsley.
Half teaspoon of salt. Okay, so now I'm supposed to mix in the tomatoes, tomato paste, water, sugar, parsley, 3 tablespoons, basil, fennel, salt, blah, blah, blah. Basically everything else. So, let's get the tomato paste. Tomato. A 6-ounce can of tomato paste, and you couldn't make this a pop top? Come on now. You know, it's times like this I miss my old P38. Friggin', I had these all done and nothing flat with that sucker.
Sugar, 3 tablespoons of parsley, basil. How much sugar am I supposed to add?
Well, we're going to go with 2 tablespoons. It says 2 to 3. Always better to go lower. Two tablespoons of parsley. Let's get that parsley back over here.
Basil, fennel. Didn't tell me I needed any fennel. Whatever the heck fennel is. Okay. But we are going to go with the basil. So here's the basil.
2 teaspoons of basil. Half teaspoon of salt. Half teaspoon of pepper. Okay, now we've done all that stuff, put it all in there. We now let it bring to a boil and simmer for 30 minutes. That should be interesting. Meanwhile, this stuff here that I put in the little bowl, I'm going to mix up. Okay, so the ricotta cheese with the egg and the parsley is already put together. This is starting to boil, steam and whatever else. Whoa! We have an eruption. I thought I turned that heat down some. Turn that heat down a little bit more. Hey Siri, set alarm for 30 minutes.
The alarm is set for 20:08.
Okay. See y'all in 2008. Okay, so I'm back. It's been a half an hour. This stuff has done what it's supposed to do, or been simmered for half an hour like it's supposed to. Now it's time to put it in the dish and see what we can see. Okay, so the oven is supposed to be preheated to 375, because it's always supposed to be preheated to 375. I don't know. It must be like a rule of nature or something. Okay, so we are supposed to put 1/3 of this glop in there. Hold on. I'm going to lift Bertha. I have to be ready to lift like a 20-pound dumbbell. It's most likely burning hot. Okay, 1/3 of the glop in there. Alright, let's spread that around a little bit. Okay, on top of that third of glop, I am supposed to put 3, count 3 of these things. You know, the things we boiled up earlier? Okay. 1, 2, ثلاثة. 1, 2, 3. واحد اثنين ثلاثة. 1, 2, 3. I do it in Latin, except I've forgotten it in Latin, and I've forgotten it in Hebrew too. So, on top of the noodles, we're supposed to put this stuff. Okay, that's done. Now we round 2 of the glop. Okay. Okay, so all the glop's in there now with the noodles and the secondary cheese glop. So what are we supposed to do now? Okay, top with remaining pieces, blah 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 blah. All right, now I'm supposed to put the cheeses on there. So 2 cups of mozzarella. Which, by the way, folks, is half this bag. So, 3/4 cup of Parmesan. Look at maybe half of this thing. Actually, it's probably more like 1/3 of this thing, maybe. Well, crud. Well, we're in experimental zone, folks, because this thing here, now that I read it, I was supposed to put, you know, part of the mozzarella and the Parmesan in on every level, and all I've really done is put a bunch of it on the top. And so we've got a bunch of meat sauce and other stuff on the lower levels. You know, instructions need to be written better than this. Okay. Not that the instructions are wrong. They're clear. It's just you need to do bullet points or something so that, you know, stupid little mistakes don't happen. Or stupid big mistakes, in my case. Okay, got to bake it covered for 25 minutes. I don't have a cover for that thing, which means what's going to happen is I'm going to put tin foil on it. Or I should say aluminum foil. Ta-da! Holy mackerel. Now let's stick our already screwed up lasagna into the oven and see what we will see. There's the heat there. A little bit heavy there. And it's in. Hey Siri, set alarm for 25 minutes.
The alarm is set for 2048.
And at 2048, we'll be back to, well, take the cover off and bake it further. Alright, so it's been 25 minutes. I now have to take that putative lasagna out and take the cover off and then do another 25 minutes. So let's see if I can do this without killing myself. Now I have the oven set up as I normally have it with Bertha, mini Bertha, the hot water pot, and the chili pot up here. I'm just going to have to set it up there in the center. Okay. The I don't want to burn myself things. Okay, who's meeting George Jetson? Sorry, Newberry, if you're watching this, I'm in the middle of taking this thing out of the oven and it needs to be, it's time sensitive, so I gotta do it. Yeah, I thought I could just take it back. Okay. Hey, here's what it looks like so far. Shoot, you can't see it. There it is. A lot of fluid. Big island of cheese on the top. And back in it goes. For another 25 minutes. And I'll see you then. I'm back. It's supposed to be done. Let's see what we can see. First, let's pick up the aluminum foil off the floor where I left it before because it was burning hot. Mitt 1. Mitt 2. Oh wait, let's turn this off. Stand back from the wall of heat. And pull this sucker out. Oh! Well, it is very browned across the top. Still kind of liquidy around the sides. Still bubbling liquidy around the sides, but I think that's fairly normal. Let's see if I can show it to you. Up. There you go. There's what it looks like. So, now it gets to sit and cool a little bit. I've already eaten supper tonight. I made chili with beans. And I didn't re-film myself doing chili again for like the 5th time. It's the first time I put beans in it in a while, and now I remember why I don't put beans in it, because all they are is little heat bombs that burn the upper part of your mouth and don't really provide any good taste. So, the lasagna is probably going to be lunch tomorrow, and I will get back to y'all and tell you well, how it turned out. Okay, so let's talk about how the lasagna turned out. It was good, solid, basic lasagna. And that's what you run into a lot of these recipes I pull off the internet. There's nothing that's too adventurous there. They don't add a whole lot of spice. You know, they don't have anything that really makes it pop, right? Solid lasagna. Tasted fine, you know, good for a meal or two, but just generic as all get out. The meat sauce just didn't carry enough oomph to it to make you go, wow, this is amazing. It was good, not amazing. Right? I don't think there was really any problems as far as the cheese went. The cheese seemed to be okay, even though it was generic cheese. I think that if you were going to take this, you could start with this as a good basic recipe, and then add more garlic, say. Or if those of you who are more advanced than I am, add other spices that might make it really kind of pop with more taste. I also suspect, and I suspect this is true of most lasagna recipes, that if I could get some really high quality, really tasteful tomatoes, that it would have been a lot better. You know, can't get really good quality tomatoes from your grocery store. I mean, the tomatoes they grow at for the grocery store are meant to be indestructible, not taste good, right? So, you know, you get that. Anybody who's grown tomatoes, and my mom and dad did forever when I was a kid, you know, you get that one off the vine, and you just barely can hold on to it because it's going to burst, right? It's full of juice, flavor, and all that. And then you get the one from the grocery store, which you can hit with a hammer, and you might break the skin, right? You know, there's like 2 drips of liquid in that sucker. And, you know, I figure that most of your generic pastes and all this sort of stuff are made out of the same sort of tomatoes that they sell to the grocery stores, right? I have tasted really, really awesome lasagna before that was carried by the fact that the guy who made it had gone and hunted up really good tomatoes of some obscure type, and he was buying them and bringing them to his restaurant and using it to make just really kind of awesome Italian dishes, right? This guy was, you know, running a fancy restaurant or trying to run a fancy restaurant in Chesterfield, and he was knocking it out of the ballpark as far as the food went. I don't know how well the business was going, but the food was great. But if you can't get, you know, some sort of fancy, really nice tomato, you know, I think you get what this does. The tomatoes, I think, was enough there to add a little bit of flavor. Mainly, it was just filling. It didn't seem to really add flavor at all. The meat paste just was, you know, a little bit more meat paste because you'd added all the tomato stuff into it. It wasn't where you had some sort of distinctive, good flavor from the tomato. And I don't think that's fixable, like I say, unless you go out and find some really good tomatoes or grow your own. And even growing your own, you might have trouble getting some really good brands rather than generic type number 6 that they sell at the grocery store for you. So, you know, again, it's a good, solid. I enjoyed re-eating it for the first 2 or 3 days. I think I'm on day 5 or 6 since I've made it now, and my body is rejecting anything lasagna-ish at this point, going, no, don't even open the fridge. We don't want any of that stuff. Go away, right? That's pretty much where my body's at right now, which means the dogs are going to get a really nice meal tomorrow. But it was solid. It's a good base. If you take this recipe and then start from it and add whatever, you know, spices you would like to, or if you can get hold of some really good tomatoes, some good tomatoes into it, I think you're going to have a good recipe here. It's a good starter, and I hope that y'all are able to make something of it. So, having said all that, I don't know what I'm going to do next. I keep threatening to make apple dumplings like Mom did, except I can't get basic cooking apples, right? You know, your basic, I always look for Rome apples. That's what I think of as a cooking apple. A friend I work with suggested, well, okay, just get Macintosh if you can't get Rome. They didn't have those at the store either. They don't have basic cooking apples anymore. It's just amazing. There's like Red Delicious, Granny Smith, Fuji, all these snack apples, right? And they're all like that big. But, you know, I will eventually trip over some Rome apples or something I can use to actually cook it, or else I buy one of each of the super duper, you know, spiffy, sugary apples and see how they work. Anyway, I'll get there eventually. But until next time, that's it for me, and I'll see you later. Ma salama, y'all.